Hello everyone, thank you for joining us today. Today we're going to be doing our Take and Make program with the Gnome Home. You will have picked up your bags at the Glen Abbey library at the front desk. And now if we want to take all the items out, you'll see that we have 2 glasses of water. One will be for cleaning your paintbrush, another one will be for pouring the water into your palette. And then we have 4 paints that I chose, just craft paints you get at the dollar store. We have our palette itself to put our paints in to mix. We have our paintbrush, and we also have our laser cut gnome door. You should have received 2 of them in your package. And also some assorted parts that you can glue to your actual door to add a little bit more depth. So today the craft paints we're going to be using are by Craft Smart and Crafter's Acrylic. You can just find them at your local dollar store. They are bright pink, bright yellow, holiday green, and burnt umber. You can use any colors you want, as these are supposed to be super colorful and a lot of fun for your gnomes. Alright, so next we're going to get started, and we're going to select our first color. Grab our paintbrush, and it's going to be our bright yellow we're going to select. First thing you want to do is definitely give it a good shake before we put it on our palette. This way you'll mix up all the acrylic paint inside the bottle. And then we're going to put 4 drops in our palette. Not putting too much, just a little bit. We just want to tint, as we're going to be doing a glaze to the wood of the laser cutter. So what we want to do is add a little bit of water to your paintbrush, and then we're going to mix up our paint. Mixing it up with some water, making sure it's nice and diluted. You don't want just strict acrylic paint. So we're going to use our bottle of water here. We're going to drop it in our palette and keep mixing. Keep mixing it up with your paintbrush and make sure it's nice and diluted. You just want basically the water to be a nice strong yellow color. You still don't want it to be solid acrylic paint. You mostly want it to be water, with the consistency that's just going to run off your paintbrush at this point. Alright, so with your paintbrush loaded with some paint, make sure you dab it off on your palette. Make sure it's not drenched, because the wood's really going to suck up all that water into the wood, so you want to make sure that you whisk it off on your palette. You just want to paint the area. First I'm doing all the sections on the inside of the door. So I'm just going to paint those yellow. As much as you can, try to stay within that area, as the water is, the paint's going to bleed out a little bit into the other areas if you get too close to the lines. So just try to paint on the inside and let it bleed out itself. Once again, just take your time, and once again, the more layers you do of the yellow or any other color that you use, it's going to get a lot darker. So with this method, as you're doing the glaze and making it watered down, the more layers you do after you let it dry, the stronger and more vibrant of a color it's going to be over time. So just take your time, fill in all the sections, just doing one color at a time. I'm just going to fill these all in with some yellow. Try to stay within the lines as much as you can. We'll see a little bit later what it looks like when you actually go over top of the other sections and you let it bleed in. You start to see some of the color bleed into the other ones. So you want to try to stay within the lines as much as possible. So with the yellow done, let's move on. Now we're going to go with our holiday green. So once again, give it a really good shake. Sometimes the water separates from the acrylic paints, so you want to give it a good shake. And we're going to add, once again, 4 drops to our palette. Keeping in mind that the darker the color is, the more water you're going to want to add, because it is a much stronger paint, much more difficult to dilute. So make sure you do give it quite a bit of water. So if you're going with a black paint, make sure you do give it quite a bit of water. So we're just going to pour a little bit of paint in there. Make sure you mix it up really well. So you can see it's really watery, but that's great because that's going to give us a nice base and really good coating for our bricks that we're doing on our door. So we're going to get a little bit on our paintbrush. And we're going to start painting every other brick on our gnome door as to make it super colorful. Just go through. Once again, you might want to start painting in the middle of the brick first. Don't try painting around the outsides, as it's going to kind of bleed into your yellow. That's going to kind of make a muddy color. So make sure you just start painting in the middle and kind of let the paint bleed into the wood itself. It's never been painted before, it hasn't been sealed, so it's going to really take all that paint and suck it up inside the wood. So first time, put it in the middle, let it go, and just keep painting as you go. You can add as many colors as you want as you're going through this process. You could have one color for every brick to make it as colorful as you want. It's up to you. Now we're going to go with our bright pink, and then we're going to go in between all of our other green colors and make the other bricks pink. So we're going to put, once again, after giving it a good shake, we're going to put 4 drops onto our palette. Add a little bit of water. Once again, make sure between every time you paint your gnome door that you're cleaning your paintbrush, so we don't have any of those colors left over. So pink, you shouldn't have to add nearly as much water as you did for the green, because it's not such a strong dark tint. So we're going to mix up our pink, and then we're going to make sure we have some paint on our brush. Once again, whisking it away on our palette to make sure that it's not super saturated. Then we're going to put it on every other block on our bricks. Once again, adding it to the middle of the brick so it can kind of fan out to the edges. Then if you need more, you can always add more later. Once again, if you add any of these colors later, doing multiple layers of paint, it will stay nice and watery in your palette, so you don't have to worry about finishing or your paint drying up. The fact that you put water in here to dilute it, it's going to stay there for a while, so you probably have a good 2-3 hours of paint time that'll be open to you, so you can always make it as strong and bold. If you want a lot of definition, if you want a lot of different colors or different shades of pink or green, you can always just keep adding multiple bricks, just keep adding more layers of paint to it to make it stand out even more. So once again, just working through all the different bricks of pink. Next, and last but not least, we're going to be using our burnt umber. Once you could be using brown. This is simply for the door and the different wood textures that we have on our gnome doors. Once again, you'll have 2. You'll have the little cave door, the little circular one. Then you'll have this one as well with the bricks. So the other one, you're probably going to want to use a lot more browns than you will with this one. But just like the green, we're going to want to add a little bit more water to this one because it is a darker, stronger color. So we'll mix in our water after cleaning our paintbrush. And then we'll add a little bit more water. You just want something that's not going to make a mess with your water when you're dropping it in. Alright, so mixing it up once again. Make sure it's nice and consistent. No chunks of paint, acrylic paint at the bottom. We're going to mix it up, and then we're going to once again dab it out on your palette, and then work in that color on all of the different wooden areas. So you have your slats going vertically and horizontally on the sides of the door. And then for this one, you're going to need quite a bit of brown paint. As the door, you're going to be putting a lot to fill in that door. You're going to need a lot of brown paint to fill in that color because the wood is going to absorb that color so much. But you'll notice once you start putting on that burnt umber or your brown or your khaki, that wood's really going to absorb it, but it's also going to show a lot of the definition used with the laser cutter. It's going to show that definition and make it pop with all that cut in detail in the wood. So make sure you paint that in. For this one, you might not want to whisk out as much of the paint out of your brush. Just make sure that you have quite a bit of water, a little bit of water and paint on there, just so you can cover as fast as possible. You don't want to be doing a million different coats. Alright, so just work your way around any part that you think you might want to cover with the brown, and then just keep going through. Once again, doing the vertical pieces of wood and the horizontal. And taking your time and making sure that you fill in any kind of pieces. If you want the door to be really strong, really vibrant brown, or in this case, burnt umber, you can always keep adding different layers of this. So let it dry for probably about 15 minutes, and then add another layer after that. I'm also doing the rock face at the end, where kind of the lip of the door, the entranceway. I'm also making that brown as well, to make it look like a cutout log that's been put in front of the door. So just make sure you have enough paint on your brush, and just keep having fun. Alright, what we want to do now is we want to grab our little bag that we have with all of the individual bricks in it. So what these are going to be for is just add a little bit of definition, a little bit of depth to our door. You should probably have gotten 15, 20. I only have like 5 or 6 here, but all the packages should have had about 15 or 20 different bricks that you can put around your whole gnome door. Just little pieces of wood that were cut on the laser cutter, so we can put on top to make it a little more detailed. So what we're going to do with this one, instead of painting this one, what we're going to do is we're just going to grab our brick and then dip it in the paint that we want. So since we have the green and the pink for our different blocks, what we're going to want to do is dip half of them in the green and then dip the other half in the pink. Simply dab off the excess paint, sit it down, let it dry once again for probably about 10 or 15 minutes. Doesn't take very long. So once you're finished with that, just keep putting it on our mat. Make sure you're working in some area where you don't mind getting a little bit of paint on. Can be a messy process as we go. So then I'll start finishing all my pink bricks. Once again, dabbing, getting rid of a little bit of the excess. Just tap it on your palette as you go. Once again, you can get all these materials just at the dollar store. You don't need a special paintbrush or anything like that. And dabbing our last brick now. And we're good. Then what we want to do is we want to let it set for probably, like I said, 15 minutes, and then we'll get to the gluing. Alright, now that that paint has all dried, what we want to do is we want to add some wood glue. If you don't have wood glue, white glue that you can get at any craft store or your dollar store will work just fine as well. So now that you notice that your paint on your bricks is dry, we're just going to add a little dab of glue to all the different bricks. Not too much, but once again, most wood glues dry clear, so it doesn't matter if it does push out over the edges. Don't worry about it. You won't notice it anyway. Alright, so we're just going to go through, grab all of our pink bricks for now, and we're going to add a dab of glue and work it all the way around our gnome door. Just add, once again, just add a little bit more definition, a little more fun to our door. These were all laser cut at the Glen Abbey Library in the Creation Zone. Yeah, feel free to use white glue or any kind of hobby glue you might have. Just work through. They should all be nice and strong pink colors as you kind of douse these in here. And then if you wanted to make them a little more dramatic, if you want to make them a little darker, you can always go through after this is dry, once again, maybe half an hour after the glue dries, and then keep adding more pink or green to the blocks as well, just to add a little more the difference in the texture and the color range of your gnome doors, just to make them as fun as possible. Now that we have those bricks on there, we're just going to add a little bit more yellow and really make that yellow background pop as it kind of gets lost within the pink and the green and the brown. We'll just add some little bit of pink, a little bit of yellow, sorry, around the doorknob, the entrance to our gnome home. Let's add a little bit of yellow there. And then we'll go through and just add a little bit more to our actual walls as well. Just really make it pop, make it look interesting. This take make was inspired by the Barrier Free Trail in Burlington. It is the part of the Bronte Creek Trail, and it includes the Gnome Road. This trail is about 1.5 kilometers long if you wanted to visit. It's an easy paved looping trail that runs along the pool area through a field and gnome road. It's a cute little trail with all kinds of gnomes and fairy homes along it. You can park in parking lot C by the Nature Center and Play Barn. If you are interested, I'll leave a link in the YouTube description. Please have a visit and have fun planting your new gnome home beside one of the trees in the park. Thank you for joining us. Have a great afternoon.